Jake Morrison stood in the cold metal hallway outside the Galaxy Council chambers. His hands shook as he held the datapad with Earth's final message. 15 years he had served as Earth's ambassador to the galaxy. 15 years of being treated like a child at the adult table. The massive doors opened with a deep hum. Jake walked into the huge chamber where representatives from 200 alien species sat in floating seats arranged in circles. The air smelled strange, like metal and something sweet that made his nose itch. Translator devices buzzed around his head, turning the alien words into English. At the center of the room sat the council chairman, a tall gray being called Vecmer. His 6 eyes looked down at Jake with the same bored expression he always wore when humans spoke. To the left sat Counselor Vexthul, a blue creature with too many arms who never missed a chance to insult Earth. Ambassador Morrison. Vecmer's voice echoed through the chamber. We have reached our decision about the Tau Ceti mining rights. Jake felt his heart sink. He already knew what they would say. For the past 6 months, Earth had been fighting to keep the mining rights in the Tau Ceti system. Human ships had found the asteroid belt first. Human miners had spent 5 years building the stations. Human engineers had figured out how to extract the rare metals that half the galaxy now used, but the Zephyrian Empire wanted those rights. And the Zephyrians had been council members for 3,000 years. The council has voted, Vecmer continued. The Tau Ceti mining rights will be transferred to the Zephyrian Empire, effective immediately. Earth will be compensated with standard rates. Jake closed his eyes for a moment. Standard rates meant almost nothing. The real value was in the ongoing mining, not a one-time payment. Earth had invested billions of credits and thousands of workers in those stations. Furthermore, Vexthul spoke up, his blue face twisting into what might have been a smile. Earth's applications for expanded trade routes have been denied. The Council feels that newer species should not be given too much responsibility too quickly. Murmurs of agreement came from around the chamber. Jake had heard it all before. Earth was too young, too reckless, too aggressive. Never mind that humans had solved 12 major galactic conflicts in the past decade. Never mind that human ships had rescued alien crews from disasters more times than anyone could count. Captain Lisa Harper watched the proceedings from her ship through a hologram display. The Intrepid floated 3 million kilometers away from the Council station, along with 6 other Earth Defense Fleet vessels. Lisa had been Jake's friend since their academy days. She could see the anger building in his face even through the fuzzy hologram. Captain, her communications officer called out, we're getting messages from the other ships. The crews want to know what our orders are if this goes badly. Lisa kept watching Jake. She knew him well enough to see he was about to do something that would change everything. In the council chamber, Jake looked around at the alien faces. Some looked bored. Others looked pleased. A few seemed uncomfortable, but none spoke up for Earth. These were the same beings who had called for human help when the Crexan pirates attacked their trade ships. The same ones who had begged Earth to share their medical technology when the Centauri plague spread. Earth accepts the Council's decision, Jake said quietly. Vecmer nodded, already moving to the next item on the agenda. But Jake was not finished. However, Jake's voice grew louder. Earth no longer accepts the Council's authority. The chamber fell silent. 200 alien heads turned to stare at the human ambassador. Even the floating translator devices seemed to pause. Vexthul laughed, a sound like breaking glass. What did the little monkey just say? Jake felt 15 years of frustration boil over. I said Earth no longer accepts the Council's authority. We're done pretending to be your junior partners while you treat us like servants. You cannot simply leave the Council, Vecmer said, his 6 eyes wide. There are procedures, legal frameworks, treaties to consider. Watch us, Jake replied. He activated his datapad and began reading. By the authority granted to me by the United Earth Government and the Colonial Defense Alliance, I hereby announce Earth's complete withdrawal from the Galaxy Council, effective immediately. The chamber erupted in noise. Aliens jumped from their seats, shouting in languages the translators could not keep up with. Security guards moved toward Jake, but he continued reading. All Earth personnel will be recalled from Council facilities within 72 hours. All trade agreements with Council member species are suspended pending individual renegotiation. All access to Earth space, Earth colonies, and Earth-controlled resources requires new diplomatic approval. Captain Harper smiled as she watched the chaos unfold. Her communications officer looked worried. "Captain, should we move to protect the ambassador?" "No need," Lisa said. "Jake can handle himself. But prepare the fleet for immediate departure. We're going home." Back in the chamber, Counselor Vexthul had stopped laughing. His blue face had turned a darker shade. "You stupid creatures have no idea what you're doing. You need us more than we need you." Jake looked directly at the alien, who had spent years calling humans monkeys, children, and worse. "I guess we'll find out who needs who, won't we?" He turned and walked toward the exit. Behind him, 200 species shouted and argued, but Jake did not look back. For the first time in 15 years, he felt truly free. As the chamber doors closed behind him, Jake activated his communicator. "Harper, this is Morrison. Time to go home." "Copy that, Jake. Welcome to Independence." The human fleet turned away from the Council station and jumped to hyperspace, leaving behind 15 years of frustration and heading toward an uncertain but hopeful future. None of them realized that in making this decision, they had just triggered the greatest crisis the galaxy had ever known. The news spread across the galaxy faster than a wildfire in dry grass. Within 6 hours of Jake Morrison's announcement, every major trade station, military base, and government center knew that Earth had left the Galaxy Council on Nexus Station, the largest trading hub in the Orion Arm. Panic began almost immediately. Merchant Captain Zillinox, a tall green creature with 4 arms, stared at his cargo, manifest in horror. 80% of his goods came from human suppliers or used human refined materials. His tentacles shook as he tried to contact his Earth business partners, but their communication channels had already been shut down. "This cannot be happening," he whispered to his assistant. "The humans cannot just leave. They supply half the rare metals in this sector." Across the station, similar scenes played out in thousands of shops and warehouses. The Cathari spice traders discovered that their preservation chemicals came from Earth laboratories. The Vorthan weaponsmiths realized their best alloys required human mining techniques. Even the station's life support systems used filters that only human factories knew how to make properly. Station Administrator Felton called an emergency meeting. The massive alien, who looked like a walking tree with too many eyes, had run Nexus Station for 30 years. He had never seen anything like this. "How much of our trade goes through human suppliers?" he asked his staff. His chief economist, a small furry creature named Pipka, checked her datapad with trembling paws. Direct human trade accounts for 42% of all goods passing through the station. But if we include items that use human components or human refined materials, the number rises to 78%. The room fell silent. Nexus Station processed trade for over 50 star systems. If human goods disappeared, the economic collapse would be catastrophic. Meanwhile, in the Vega system, Commander Ryan Bell stood on the bridge of Outpost 7, watching alien ships approach his station. The outpost controlled the main jump point between the core worlds and the Outer Rim territories. Every day, thousands of ships passed through, paying fees and buying supplies. Ryan's communication officer, Lieutenant Amy Brooks, looked worried as she monitored the incoming messages. "Sir, we're getting desperate calls from ship captains. They want to know if we're really shutting down." Orders are orders, Ryan replied. Earth has withdrawn from all Council operations. That includes this outpost. But sir, without our navigation, beacons and refueling station, ships can't make the jump to the outer rim safely. The next closest outpost is 6 days away. Ryan knew the problem. The Vega jump point was tricky, with gravity fields that shifted constantly. Human computers had learned to predict the changes, but alien navigation systems were not as advanced. Without human guidance, ships trying to jump through Vega had a 30% chance of being destroyed. The first alien delegation arrived within hours. 3 ships from the Melodian Federation, carrying their top diplomats. The Melodians were peaceful blue-skinned beings who looked almost human except for their large black eyes. Ambassador Keelana stepped onto the outpost with tears running down her face. Commander Bell, please, you must reconsider. Our colony. Ships use this route to reach the outer rim. Without your station, we cannot expand to new worlds. Ryan felt sorry for her, but his orders were clear. I'm sorry, Ambassador. All human personnel are being recalled to Earth. We begin shutdown procedures tomorrow. As word spread, more ships arrived. The proud Korthani warrior fleet, their massive battle cruisers bristling with weapons, came not to fight but to beg. General Vaktar, their war leader, had never asked anyone for help in his 200-year life. Human commander, Vaktar's deep voice rumbled through the station's speakers. The Korthani have ancient enemies in the Sigma Quadrant. Your weapons technology keeps them at bay. Without human particle shields and targeting systems, my people will be slaughtered. Ryan had helped design some of those weapon upgrades. The Korthani were fierce fighters, but their technology was thousands of years old. Human innovations had turned their outdated ships into modern war machines. Back on Earth, President Karen White sat in the Oval Office, reading reports from around the galaxy. Each one painted the same picture. Alien civilizations were discovering just how much they had come to depend on human skills and resources. Director Sam Carter, head of Earth Intelligence, brought her the latest analysis. Sam was a quiet man who had spent his career studying alien societies. What he had learned in the past day shocked even him. Madam President, we always knew humans were good at solving problems, but we never realized how much the galaxy relied on us. Look at these numbers. He handed her a tablet showing charts and graphs. Humans handle 60% of all crisis management in Council space. When disasters happen, alien governments call us first. We coordinate 90% of all rescue operations. Our logistics systems manage supply chains for over 100 species. Karen shook her head in amazement. How did this happen? We've only been in space for 70 years. We adapt faster than they do, Sam explained. Most alien species think the same way their ancestors did 10,000 years ago. When they face new problems, they get stuck. Humans see problems as puzzles to solve. The reports kept coming in. The Aquilian Confederacy was facing riots because their food distribution system had been designed by human efficiency experts. The Zephyrian Empire's manufacturing plants were shutting down because they depended on human-trained supervisors who understood how to coordinate complex production lines. Even the medical field was in chaos. Dr. Alex Kane, who had been working on joint research projects, received hundreds of desperate messages from alien doctors. 17 different species had become dependent on human-developed treatments. Without access to Earth's pharmaceutical knowledge, diseases that had been controlled for decades were starting to reappear. The most surprising discovery came from the Council's own analysis department. A leaked report showed that humans had been quietly fixing problems across the galaxy for years. When trade disputes arose, human negotiators found solutions. When technical problems appeared, human engineers provided answers. When conflicts threatened to become wars, human diplomats found peaceful resolutions. The galaxy had not realized it, but humans had become the glue holding galactic civilization together. As the first day after Earth's withdrawal ended, the scope of the crisis became clear. This was not just about losing a junior member of the council. This was about losing the species that had been keeping everything running smoothly. And the panic was just beginning. 3 months had passed since Earth's withdrawal from the Galaxy Council. What started as panic had become a full collapse of galactic civilization. Emperor Zonther of the Zephyrian Empire stood on the balcony of his palace, watching smoke rise from the capital city below. Riots had been going on for weeks. His people were angry, hungry, and scared. The mighty empire that had ruled 50 star systems for 3,000 years was falling apart. His advisor, General Mex Cole, approached with the daily reports. Old Soldier's face looked tired and defeated. "Your Majesty, the situation grows worse. 3 more factory worlds have shut down completely. Our people cannot figure out how to run the production lines without human supervisors." The Emperor's 4 eyes burned with rage and shame. 3 months ago, he had laughed when the humans left. He had called them weak and stupid. Now his empire was crumbling because those same humans had been running his factories better than his own people. "How many ships do we have left?" Zonther asked. "Less than half our fleet is operational. The engines require maintenance procedures that only human technicians understood. Our own engineers are trying to learn, but they estimate it will take years to figure out what the humans knew." On the other side of the galaxy, Dr. Alex Kane sat in his small apartment on the research station, Gamma 7. He had been studying alien diseases for 10 years, working with scientists from dozens of species. Now he watched helplessly as plague spread across multiple worlds. His communication device buzzed constantly with desperate messages from alien doctors. The Centauri flu, which had been eliminated 15 years ago using human-developed vaccines, was back. The Rigel bone disease was spreading through 3 star systems. 17 different species faced medical emergencies that only Earth's pharmaceutical companies knew how to treat. Dr. Kane tried to help by sending basic information, but it was not enough. The alien scientists could not understand the complex chemical processes that human researchers had developed. They had always relied on ready-made medicines from Earth, rather than learning to make them themselves. A message came from Dr. Veltara, his former research partner on the planet Kepler-4. The insect-like alien's translated words showed her desperation. "Alex, the children are dying. The Kepler virus has mutated, and we cannot stop it. Please, can you help us? We will give you anything." Alex stared at the message for a long time. He had the knowledge to save those children, but Earth's withdrawal meant he could not legally help them. The politicians had made their decision, and scientists like him had to follow orders. Captain Lisa Harper, now patrolling Earth's expanded defense zone, watched the chaos unfold through her ship's sensors. The Intrepid had been upgraded with new weapons and shields, making it more powerful than ever. But instead of fighting enemies, Lisa spent her time watching former allies tear themselves apart. Her tactical officer, Lieutenant Paul Davis, pointed to the main screen. "Captain, we're detecting weapons fire in the Altair system. It looks like the Aquilian Confederacy is fighting itself." Lisa was not surprised. The Aquilians had been one of the most stable governments in the galaxy, but their entire political system had depended on human mediators. When disputes arose between their different factions, human diplomats had always found peaceful solutions. Without those peacekeepers, old grudges had turned into civil war. "Any human ships or stations in danger?" Lisa asked. "No, ma'am. All human personnel were evacuated months ago." Lisa felt sad watching the destruction. The Aquilians were good people who had always treated humans with respect. But Earth's government had decided that partial relationships were not enough. Either the galaxy would treat humanity as equals, or humanity would go its own way. The situation was even worse in the outer territories. The Melodian Federation, which had been expanding to new worlds for centuries, faced starvation on their colony planets. Their agricultural systems had been designed by human experts who understood how to grow food in difficult environments. Without human knowledge, crop failures were destroying entire settlements. Commander Ryan Bell, now back on Earth, received daily reports from the Vega system. The jump point he had once controlled was becoming a graveyard. Ships trying to navigate without human guidance were being destroyed by the shifting gravity fields. The death toll was in the thousands and growing every day. Even worse, the collapse was spreading to species that had never directly worked with humans. Trade networks that had operated for millennia were breaking down. The efficient systems that humans had quietly improved over the years were failing, and the aliens could not figure out how to fix them. The Korthani warrior fleets, once the most feared military force in the galaxy, had been forced to retreat to their home systems. Without human technology upgrades, their ancient enemies had started winning battles. General Vaktar, the proud warrior who had begged for help at Outpost 7, was now fighting a losing war on 3 fronts. President Karen White received a briefing from Director Sam Carter that painted a picture of total galactic breakdown. Economic systems were collapsing, governments were falling, wars were starting, diseases were spreading, and all because humans were no longer available to quietly fix problems and keep things running smoothly. How many species are asking for help? Karen asked. All of them, Sam replied. Even the ones who voted against us in the council. The Zephyrians have sent 17 different diplomatic messages in the past week. The Aquilians are offering us 3 star systems if we'll just send mediators to stop their civil war. Karen looked out the window at the busy streets of Washington. Life on Earth continued normally, but she knew they were living in the calm center of a galactic storm. The question was how long they could stay isolated while the universe burned. Around them, what about the species that were neutral? The ones that didn't vote against us but didn't support us either? They're suffering just as much. It turns out nobody realized how much the galaxy depended on human efficiency and problem solving. We weren't just members of the galactic community. We were the invisible foundation that held it all together. As the reports continued to pour in, one thing became clear. Earth had not just left the Galaxy Council. They had removed the keystone that kept galactic civilization from collapsing into chaos, and the worst was still to come. 6 months after Earth's withdrawal, the galaxy had reached its breaking point. Desperate times called for desperate measures, and the surviving alien leaders were ready to try anything. Former Council Chairman Vekmer stood at the bridge of the massive diplomatic vessel Harmony's Voice as it approached Earth's solar system. The ship was enormous, stretching over 5 kilometers from bow to stern, and carried representatives from 47 different species. But despite its impressive size, Vekmer felt smaller than he ever had in his long life. The gray aliens. 6 eyes were filled with shame as he remembered how dismissively he had treated human requests just months ago. Now he was coming to Earth not as a superior council leader, but as a beggar hoping for mercy. Sir, we're receiving a communication from Earth Defense Command, his communications officer reported. General Pete Murphy appeared on the main screen. The human military leader looked calm and professional, but his eyes were cold. Vekmer recognized the look. It was the same expression humans got when they were being polite while hiding their anger. Chairman Vekmer, Pete said. This is an unexpected visit. Earth's borders are currently closed to all council vessels. General Murphy, I come not as chairman of the council, but as a representative of desperate peoples. We need to talk. Pete studied the alien leader for a moment. Very well. You may dock at Luna Station. Bring no more than 20 representatives. All weapons must remain on your ship. Dr. Amy Foster, Earth's chief economist, waited at Luna Station with a team of analysts. She had been studying the galactic economic collapse for months, and the numbers were staggering. Entire star systems had reverted to pre-industrial conditions. Trade routes that had operated for thousands of years had completely shut down. As the alien delegation entered the station, Amy could see the desperation in their faces. These were beings who had once commanded vast empires and controlled the fate of billions. Now they looked like refugees seeking shelter from a storm. Vecmer led the group, followed by representatives Amy recognized from news reports. Emperor Zonthar of the Zephians looked like he had aged decades in 6 months. His golden robes were wrinkled and stained. Princess Zaralyn, his daughter, stayed close to her father with worry in her large eyes. General Vaktar of the Korthani limped as he walked. The proud warrior had been wounded in the battles his people were losing without human technology. Ambassador Kilana of the Melodians wept openly, her tears falling for the colony worlds that were starving. The meeting took place in Luna Station's main conference room. Earth's delegation sat on one side of the table, looking professional and well-prepared. The alien representatives sat across from them, looking defeated and desperate. General Pete Murphy spoke first. "You asked for this meeting. What do you want?" Vecmer's voice shook as he answered. "We want humanity to return to the galaxy. We are prepared to offer you anything. Technology, territory, resources, anything you desire." "Interesting," said Dr. Amy Foster. 6 months ago, you voted to take away our mining rights in Tau Ceti. You called us too young and inexperienced to handle expanded trade routes. What has changed?" Emperor Zonthar leaned forward, his 4 eyes filled with pain. "We were fools. We thought we were superior because our civilizations were older. We did not understand that age without wisdom is worthless. Your people brought innovation and efficiency that our ancient ways had forgotten. My empire is dying," he continued. "My people riot in the streets because they cannot find food or medicine. Our factories stand empty because no one knows how to run them without human supervisors. I offer you 20 star systems if you will just send advisors to help us." Princess Zaralyn spoke up, her young voice filled with desperation. "General Murphy, I studied at Earth University for 2 years. I learned about human history, about how you solve problems through cooperation and innovation. Please teach us these methods. We will give you equal status in any new government structure." General Vaktar struggled to stand, his wounded leg making him grimace. "The Korthani have never begged anyone for help. Our warrior code forbids it. But I am not here as a warrior today. I am here as a father watching my children die in battles we cannot win. If humanity will share their military knowledge again, the Korthani will pledge our warrior oath to protect Earth for 1,000 generations." The testimonies continued around the table. Each species offered their most precious resources, their most advanced technology, their most sacred territories. But Pete Murphy and his team remained unmoved. "You offer us things," Pete said finally, "but what we wanted was never things. We wanted respect. We wanted to be treated as equals, not as junior partners who should be grateful for scraps." "You shall have it," Vecmer said quickly. "Complete equality. Humanity would have equal representation in any new galactic government, equal voting rights, equal access to all trade and territory." Dr. Amy Foster consulted her notes. "That's not enough. The Galaxy Council structure itself is the problem. It's too slow, too bureaucratic, too focused on preserving old ways instead of finding new solutions. If we're going to fix this mess, we need a completely new system." As the negotiations continued, alarms suddenly began sounding throughout the station. General Murphy received an urgent message on his communicator. "Sir, we have a problem. Long range. Sensors are detecting a large Cruxan fleet moving toward the Centauri system. They appear to be taking advantage of the chaos to launch a full-scale invasion. The Crexan Dominion had been the galaxy's most aggressive military power before humans, had helped develop defense systems that kept them contained. With those defenses gone and most fleets weakened, the Crexans saw an opportunity to conquer their neighbors. Emperor Zonthar looked terrified. The Centauri colonies have no defense against the Crexans. Millions will die. General Vaktar tried to stand again. My fleets could help, but without human targeting systems, we would be slaughtered before we could engage them. Pete Murphy made a decision that would change everything. Dr. Foster, contact Admiral Harper. Tell her to take the Fifth Fleet to Centauri immediately. Sir, Amy asked, are we abandoning our isolation policy? Pete looked around the table at the desperate alien faces, then back at his advisors. No, we're ending it on our terms. If we're going back to the galaxy, we're going back as leaders, not as junior partners. He turned to address the alien delegation. Here are our conditions. The Galaxy Council is dissolved immediately. A new Terran Galactic Alliance will be formed with Earth as the central authority. All member species will adopt human organizational and efficiency standards. Military operations will be coordinated through Earth Defense Command, and any future disputes will be resolved using human mediation protocols. Vecmer did not hesitate. Agreed. Completely agreed. As the alien representatives began signing agreements that would reshape galactic civilization, Admiral Lisa Harper's fleet jumped toward the Centauri system. The isolation was over. Humanity was returning to the galaxy, but this time as the acknowledged leaders rather than the junior partners. The universe was about to learn what human leadership really looked like. 1 year after Earth's withdrawal from the Galaxy Council, the universe looked completely different. The old order had died, and in its place stood something that no one had imagined possible. Ambassador Jake Morrison walked through the halls of the new Terran Galactic Alliance headquarters on Luna Station. The building buzzed with activity as representatives from over 100 species worked together under human leadership. Jake had gone from being dismissed as a junior partner to serving as Secretary General of the most powerful organization in galactic history. The transformation had been remarkable. Admiral Lisa Harper's fleet had defeated the Crexan invasion force at Centauri in less than 6 hours. The Crexans, who had terrorized the galaxy for centuries, surrendered completely. When they realized that human military coordination was unlike anything they had ever faced. The efficiency reports are in, said Dr. Amy Foster, now serving as the Alliance's economic director. She handed Jake a datapad showing statistics that would have seemed impossible a year ago. Galactic trade has increased by 300%. Communication delays between star systems have been reduced by 90%. And we've had 0 major conflicts in the past 8 months. Jake smiled as he read the numbers. The secret was not complicated. Humans had simply applied their natural problem-solving abilities to galactic-scale challenges. Where the old council had used complex bureaucracy and ancient traditions, the Alliance used simple, practical solutions. In the Zephyrian Empire, Princess Zaralyn stood in the same throne room where her father had once paced in desperation. But now the room was filled with laughter and celebration. The Empire was not just surviving, it was thriving under the new system. Your Highness, said her advisor, the same General Mexcol who had once brought reports of doom. The factory. Worlds are reporting record production. The human efficiency experts have taught our people methods we never imagined. Zaralyn nodded. She had spent 2 years studying on Earth, and she understood what made humans special. They did not cling to old ways simply because they were traditional. When something did not work, they found something that did. Her father, Emperor Zonthar, had stepped down from the throne to let his daughter lead. He now served as the Zephyrian representative to the Alliance, grateful for the chance to help build something better than what he had inherited. The humans were right, he had told her. Leadership is not about age or tradition. It is about results. On the planet Korth, General Vektar trained his warriors in new fighting techniques developed by Colonel Dan Rogers. The Korthani had always been fierce fighters, but human tactical knowledge had made them unstoppable. More importantly, the Alliance's diplomatic methods meant they rarely needed to fight at all. Colonel Rogers, Vektar said as they watched young Korthani soldiers practice with human weapons. My people have learned more in 1 year than in the previous 1,000. We pledge our warrior oath to the Alliance for 10,000 generations. Dan Rogers smiled. He had expected the Korthani to resist human methods, but they had embraced them completely. The proud warriors understood that true strength came from effectiveness, not from following ancient customs that no longer worked. Dr. Alex Kane stood in his new laboratory on the research station Hippocrates, watching scientists from 20 different species work together on medical problems. The Interspecies Research Initiative had accomplished more in 1 year than the old Council's medical programs had in decades. Dr. Kane called Dr. Veltara his former research partner. The insect-like alien had become one of his closest friends. During their work to cure the diseases that had returned during the galactic collapse, the Kepler virus vaccine is ready for distribution. We saved the children. Alex felt a deep satisfaction. Under the Alliance system, knowledge was shared freely instead of being hoarded by individual species. The result was medical breakthroughs that benefited everyone. President Karen White stood at the podium in the Alliance Assembly Hall, addressing representatives from across the galaxy. The hall was designed like Earth's United Nations building, but much larger. Beings from hundreds of worlds sat together, working toward common goals. 1 year ago, Earth left the Galaxy Council because we were tired of being treated as junior partners, Karen said. Today, we stand together as equals in an alliance that has brought peace and prosperity to the galaxy. The assembly erupted in applause. The sound was strange as different species clapped, clicked, buzzed, and whistled in their own ways. But the meaning was universal: approval and gratitude. The Alliance has shown us that diversity is not a weakness to be managed, but a strength to be celebrated. When we combine human innovation with Zephyrian craftsmanship, Korthani courage, Melodian agriculture, and the unique gifts of all our member species, we achieve things that none of us could accomplish alone. In the audience, former Council Chairman Vekmer listened with amazement. The gray alien had spent his life believing that order came from rigid hierarchy and ancient traditions. The Alliance had proved him wrong. Order came from cooperation and mutual respect. After the assembly, Jake Morrison walked to his favorite observation deck. Through the transparent walls, he could see ships from dozens of species docked at the station. A year ago, many of these same species had been enemies. Now they worked together because the Alliance had given them something the old Council never had: a system that actually worked. Dr. Amy Foster joined him at the observation deck. The latest reports from the frontier are incredible, she said. 12 new species have requested to join the Alliance. They've heard about our success and want to be part of it. Jake was not surprised. The Alliance's reputation was spreading throughout the galaxy. Species that had never been contacted by the old Council were sending diplomatic missions to Earth. They wanted to learn human methods and join the growing community of cooperation. What about the Crexans? Jake asked. They're asking to join, too, Amy replied with a smile. Apparently, they've decided that making war is less profitable than making peace. Colonel Rogers has been working with their military leaders to restructure their forces for peacekeeping instead of conquest. As Jake watched the busy traffic around the station, he thought about how much had changed. A year ago, humanity had been frustrated junior partners in a failing system. Now they were leaders of a galactic civilization that was more successful than anyone had dreamed possible. The key had been simple. Instead of trying to force the galaxy to work the way it Always had, humans had shown everyone a better way. They had not conquered the galaxy through military might or economic pressure. They had won it through competence, innovation, and respect for others. A small transport ship caught Jake's eye as it approached the station. The identification showed it was from a previously unknown species in the Andromeda Arm, another group. Wanting to join the Alliance, probably. Jake smiled. The Terran Galactic Alliance was not just changing the galaxy. It was changing the universe, one species at a time. And the best part was, they were just getting started.